Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm David Knight. It is Thursday, April 30th, 2015. Now, if you remember, the CIA set up an Operation Mockingbird. That was the way they were going to control the press to put out their narrative that they wanted. We still have a Mockingbird press that just repeats mindlessly whatever the government tells them to say without ever questioning it, no matter how absurd. But a key part of that, a key tool, is the mocking that goes along with it. That's why they came up with the term conspiracy theorist. It was to discredit anyone who questioned the ridiculous stories that the government was giving us, the official story about the JFK assassination. Now we see there's a mainstream media pressing to criticize both Governor Abbott as well as INFOWARS. Mainstream media rushes to demonize INFOWARS over Jade Helm. This is a story by Paul Joseph Watson and Alex Jones. They point out that at every turn, we have stressed that this exercise, Jade Helm, serves to acclimatize Americans to the sight of troops on the street. And it's part of a wider and manifestly provable agenda to prepare for civil unrest in America. But look at the way that the media reports this. Bloomberg's David Knowles appears to find it abnormal that any news outlet would even dare to express skepticism about the military talking points on Jade Helm. Salon.com went even further as they point out. This is the title: Right-wing lunatics think the military is planning to invade Texas. Then the Houston Chronicle does an article on it. Talks about alien abduction and Bigfoot. Raw Story talks about has a picture of a frightened woman wearing a tinfoil hat. It's very easy to do these straw man arguments. We have never said that this was going to be the rollout of martial law. We've had people talk about in many different outlets how in the past we have seen when drills have turned into a live action. But this is part of a larger operation. It was just a year ago that Joe Biggs and I were in AP Hill, inside of a separate training area, a secure training area that was an American city. So when they say they need to train in American cities, they have already built American cities on their military bases. Now this is a broader exposure, a broader exercise that gives them even more real-world experience in that particular thing. And we see these exercises increasing both in frequency as well as in scope and scale. That's what we're concerned about. I got a call from a local news ABC affiliate saying they were doing a series on fact versus fear. And of course, they contacted us because they wanted to know what the fear side of this was. This is what she said in her memo. My news director told me to ask about what the fear is behind Jade Helm. Why are you worried about the military being nearby? I understand there's a general distrust of the government. Does the fear stem from belief that the government military is lying to the public? Well, certainly that is part of it. I was able to talk to her, and I got to say I appreciate the fact that she did real journalism. She didn't do a hit piece on us like these mainstream media outlets, like Bloomberg, like the Houston Chronicle. She actually asked us what we were afraid of, and I explained to her that we weren't afraid. We had some real concerns, and that yes, we did see the military lying. Part of what they said at Bastrop was that we shouldn't really be concerned about this. It really wasn't any of our business because this was taking place on private property. That's what the lieutenant colonel from the Special Forces, who was the public spokesman, said. He said they'd been given invitations from these private property owners, and it didn't really concern us. I read to her from the original Jade Helm document that we got that was talking about its operations in Texas. And I explained to her that they were going around, they were using this document and doing a show to all the local city and county governments, telling them that they were seeking written invitations from these governments. Well, if it's all on private property, why do they need to have written invitations from the local government? Clearly, he's not being honest with us. Clearly, there's another agenda going on here. I explained to her that the term unconventional warfare is a Department of Defense expression of art that talks about something that is very specific, like asymmetric warfare. She's going to do the investigation. I appreciate the fact that they would talk to us, but she didn't have the facts. When I explained to her that they were seeking written invitation, she said, "Where'd you get that?" And I said, "Well, that's from the original document." She had not seen that. These people in Bloomberg and other places are not even trying to understand what the concerns are. What they're trying to do is just mock anyone who questions the government narrative. Now, one of the things that we have to be concerned about, of course, is, and we've mentioned this many times, this increased training by the U.S. government the advanced prepositioning and militarization of the police, the prepositioning of MRAPs and other pieces of military hardware under the Section 1033 program that we see increasing at a rapid rate. All of this is preparation for some kind of unrest. Are they concerned about a financial collapse? We learned today that in the Texas State Legislature, a bill has been put forward. This is House Bill number 2346 that would give law enforcement capacity to the Federal Reserve agents at banks. This says this is an act relating to granting limited state law enforcement authority to commissioned law enforcement officers of a Federal Reserve bank. Now, you may ask, rightfully so, who, where, why does the Federal Reserve have law enforcement agencies there? Well, of course, this is part of the post-September 11th police state that's been created in our country. They have given power to the Federal Reserve banks to commission law enforcement officers. What this bill is doing is recognizing them as federal law enforcement officers and saying they will have state authority to arrest people. They say, although they will not be peace officers under the laws of the state, the bill would give them the powers of arrest, search, and seizure as to any felony or misdemeanor offense created under the laws of the state committed on the premises of a Federal Reserve bank, or while they are protecting an officer or personnel of the Federal Reserve Bank. It makes you curious, doesn't it, as to why they would be so concerned about Federal Reserve banks needing that kind of protection, arrest protection. Perhaps that's something they foresee coming with an economic collapse. Nevertheless, this is also part of an expanding bureaucracy. And of course, the Federal Reserve is not part of the federal government. It is a private, separate corporation. Nevertheless, we see that law enforcement officers and people who are given these kinds of police powers are exploding. Every bureaucracy, real bureaucracies of the federal government, not the private agencies like the Federal Reserve, but agencies like the Department of Education have been given law enforcement capabilities. It was a couple of years ago, the Washington Post asked, why do we have this solicitation in FedBiz Op of the Department of Education seeking shotguns and personnel armor? They found out less than a year later when the Department of Education staged a raid on a home looking for a mother and wife who was behind in her college loans. They drugged the entire family out on the front lawn in the dead of night, face down with guns loaded to their heads, looking for the wife and mother who was no longer with the family. That's the kind of abuse, these kinds of no-knock raids that we're seeing from the police all the time. But it is also, I think, characteristic of what we're seeing from our government. They are creating swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. And now we have a bill in Texas that's being fought by Jonathan Strickland, another Texas representative. This one was introduced by Representative Pickett. Jonathan Strickland is fighting this bill because we do not need to be multiplying the number of officers who are going to harass us and arrest us. We see, though, that there's even more to this. We have the military-industrial complex. And, of course, when we look at Jade Helm, one of the things that concerns us is the increasing use and involvement of the military domestically in law enforcement capacity. This article that we have on INFOWARS.com today, Ferguson cops are going to use skunk chemical weapons on protesters. This is something that was developed by the Israeli Defense Forces. It is an extremely powerful, although non-lethal weapon. An article from Defense One breaks this down and says that it is a type of malodorant. In other words, like not a deodorant, but a malodorant. They say it is technically non-toxic, but it is incredibly disgusting. It's described as a cross between a dead animal and human excrement. Untreated, the smell lingers for weeks. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces have been using this since 2008 against the Palestinians. And that's the way they're going to be treating American citizens of the United States, the way the Palestinians have been abused in Israel. This is a company that is out of Baltimore, so you can bet that it's going to be going to this police department. They mentioned at the beginning of the Defense One that as protesters and police officers clash on the streets, cities like Baltimore, Maryland, and Ferguson, Missouri, the police departments are looking for a way to control the crowds. Now, one of the things that's interesting that I find in this is that back in 2008, of course, this has been used by the Israeli Defense Forces since 2008, but in the U.S. Army was involved back in 2008 creating a stink grenade. essentially the same stuff. This was developed by the Army. Now we see that in 2015, the Navy is also involved in this same type of research. So that's one of the things that troubles us about Jade Helm, and that is the increasingly close ties between law enforcement and the military. The ties between the military-industrial complex that sees a new profit center in controlling crowds in America and using the military to do it. A very troubling development. When we come back after the break, we're going to get a report from our reporters who are in Baltimore, Maryland. It appears that Walmart is not only banning ammunition, but they're banning toy guns. Maybe it's for the safety of the people in Baltimore. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
My name is Alex Jones. Most of you know me from my syndicated radio program and my documentary films, as well as INFOWARS Nightly News. When I got on air 20 years ago, I had discovered the globalist program, their plan to take over the world, and my focus went from running 6 miles every other day, swimming 2-3 miles a couple times a week, and lifting weights, to focusing on fighting the globalist. I've gone from 279 pounds all the way down to 235 pounds, and the weight's going off even faster. Super Male Vitality, Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, and Oxy Powder. Those 3 products of the entire family of InfoWarsLife.com products are the most important from my own personal experience. And it wasn't just that my weight loss accelerated. My muscle mass increased. My stamina, my energy levels exploded. Now is the time to take action. Start your journey today with the Alex Challenge Pack. It's the trifecta of change. Secure yours today and get free shipping for a limited time at InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. The knowledge of the ancients, tried and true, trusted herbs and extracts fused with the latest nutraceutical science. Introducing the all-new Ancient Defense Herbal Immunity Blend, crafted with over 14 key ancient herbs and extracts to supercharge and prepare your body for what experts admit is the most dangerous season of the year. We have rejected hundreds of other formulations in our quest to bring you what is simply the most powerful and comprehensive proprietary formula that we have ever created in the realm of herbal immunity. For the last 2 years, our team has been working with top doctors, nutritionists, and chemists to develop the ultimate nutraceutical formulation. Experience the benefits of combining over 14 ancient herbs and extracts with exciting new advances in nutraceutical science. For a limited time, get 25% off on this introductory offer. Visit ancientdefense.com or call 888-253-3139. ancientdefense.com.
Now our reporters Jakari Jackson and Joe Biggs have gone to Baltimore to report on what's happening there in the wake of the death of Freddie Gray, the riots and the protests that have happened there. It was reported that Walmart had banned ammunition sales. So they went to investigate that. They found out that it was even worse than that. Walmart is banning even BB guns and knives. Here's that report.
Jakari Jackson here for InfoWars.com. You guys may have saw the article that Paul Joseph Watson put out the other day detailing how at least one Walmart in the area of Baltimore is refusing ammo sales to its customers, citing concerns over the riots as its reasoning. So we're going to try to call some in the area. If we find one, we may just stop by and see what they have to say.
It's pretty good.
Yes, sir. Do you know if you have any .357 Magnum ammunition in stock?
We have no ammunition at all in stock. They pulled everything out when the riots came on.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you say that again?
Yes. They pulled all of our ammunition out when the riots came on.
Really? Oh.
Yes, we have nothing.
So you mean like you sold out or they pulled it off the shelf?
No, they didn't sell out. They took it out. Our people at Walmart took it out and put it in the safe in the back of the warehouse. They haven't put it back in yet.
Oh, wow. Do you know when they're going to bring it back out?
I don't know. I don't know when they're going to bring it back in.
No, that's unprecedented.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to take precautionary measures.